Whether it was two of the biggest names in the industry warring over the WWE Championship, or a returning veteran determined to prove they hadn't missed a step, as far as this lot were concerned, the floor was lava and they did not feel like getting themselves burnt. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are the 10 best wrestling matches that never left the ring. Number 10, TAJIRI vs Billy Kidman, SmackDown 2004. Now, admittedly, this pair of Ruthless Aggression era stars would put on much better matches together during their WWE careers. However, for the purpose of this list, it's worth noting that the duo of Billy Kidman and TAJIRI were involved in a pretty decent matchup on SmackDown back in 2004, which, you guessed it, didn't see either of the cruiserweights leaving the ring. In this short and sweet match that involved Kidman battling against the Japanese buzzsaw for a 2004 Rumble spot, TAJIRI set the tone for the snappy match by brutalizing his adversary with his trademark kicks. In the end, TAJIRI would pick up the victory here after dodging a shooting star press and nailing Kidman with a head kick, as he was wont to do. As a slick piece of digestible fun, this entirely in-ring affair is more than worth a few minutes of your time. Number 9, Cesaro vs William Regal, Raw 2013. After being introduced as Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger's newest real American ally on a June 2013 episode of Raw, Cesaro made his way down to the ring to lock up with in-ring veteran William Regal. All the experience in the world couldn't save him on this night, however, as the freak athlete swung Regal around the ring by his neck mid-chokehold. That would ultimately spend the end for the mighty former Intercontinental Champion, with Cesaro calling it a night with an always effective neutralizer. What made this quick skirmish so intriguing, though, alongside the fact both men involved seemed to be almost incapable of having a bad match, was that neither star opted to take their war to the outside. Instead, Cesaro laid down a marker with as little shenanigans as possible, besting one of the best strictly inside of the squared circle. Number 8, Drew McIntyre vs Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 36. Few people will likely rank Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar's WWE Championship showdown at WrestleMania 36 that highly on their all-time greatest in-ring masterclasses list. But for the feel-good factor alone, this match deserves to be celebrated whenever we get the chance to relive it. Yet on top of the mayor of Claymore Country not only surviving but actually overcoming the beast incarnate on the grandest stage, the Monster Mash also didn't once leave the ring, just about holding the two titans within it. After enough Claymores, suplexes, and F5s to level a small city, an eerily silent performance center witnessed the 2020 Royal Rumble winner finally fulfill his destiny, becoming the first ever British WWE champion. It was also something of a rarity not seeing Lesnar resort to table or barricade breaking in an attempt to get the job done, with both men determined to settle their score without any bells and whistles. Number 7, Meiko Satomura vs Mercedes Martinez, Mae Young Classic 2018. The first and second Mae Young Classics threw out a number of, classic showdowns between some of the brightest stars in the industry. Yet away from the more commonly celebrated likes of Shayna Baszler vs Kairi Sane and Toni Storm vs Io Shirai, another match in the early rounds of the 2018 edition of the competition set itself apart for a unique reason. Whilst already just being a straight-up war between two barbaric performers in Meiko Satomura and Mercedes Martinez, the match also stayed entirely within the ropes for its just under 12-minute runtime. After grappling back and forth early on, the two badasses tee off on each other with a selection of vicious strikes and explosive maneuvers. You just love to see it. Her pre-NXT and Retribution Martinez would also prove just how legitimately tough and highly skilled she was in this encounter, but sadly she could not withstand Satomura's devastating scorpion kick in the end, which is fair enough because not many people could. Should this pair ever meet in a WWE ring again, be sure to have a front row seat, if we're allowed to actually sit in an arena. Number 6, Finn Balor vs Samoa Joe, NXT TakeOver The End. Now you may be sat there thinking, well, don't all steel cage matches stay inside the ring? There's a big cage around it. But for the most part, these contests tend to end with a wrestler escaping the structure via climbing up and out of it, or simply by walking out the door. In other words, leaving the damn ring. However, every once in a while, a match of this type will be contested entirely within the steel it's surrounded by, concluding with a pinfall or some submission. It'd obviously be a bit pointless to just stuff this list full of this specific scenario, so we've decided to include just the one, but oh boy, what a one. In the blow-off to the pair's excellent NXT feud throughout 2016, Finn Balor attempted to seize back his NXT championship from the hands of Samoa Joe, within the stripped-back cage setting at TAKEOVER The End. Here, the rivals beat the absolute piss out of each other, using the structure as a formidable ally. Admittedly, Balor did threaten to leave the squared circle on a few occasions, but was quickly yanked back into the bout by Joe. He sensed there was a place on this list at stake. A super muscle buster would seal the deal for the champ in the end, with both men literally leaving it all in the ring on the night. Number 5, The Kid vs. Razor Ramon, Raw 1993. Like a few of the other entries on this list, this match may not have been a stunning war of attrition, but the reaction to its impactful closing stretch has undoubtedly earned it a place in WWE folklore. Yeah, with most people too busy picking their jaws back up off the floor in the wake of its out-of-nowhere finish, it largely went unnoticed that neither man exited the squared circle once throughout the course of this brief match. Back before he was a crotch-chopping member of D-Generation X, the Kid showed up on an episode of Monday Night Raw in mid-1993, determined to mark himself out as a star to watch. The bad guy Razor Ramon seemed likely to squash those ambitious plans, and as the bout got underway, it soon looked as though all hope of an underdog triumph was pretty much dead. Then, after using his superior agility to dodge out of the way of an oncoming Scott Hall, the young Sean Waltman climbed to the top rope and executed an effective moonsault onto the more experienced WWF name, securing a surprise upset win that would earn him the new moniker of 1-2-3 Kid. Number 4, Brock Lesnar vs. John Cena, SummerSlam 2014. Though it wasn't the match involving Brock Lesnar uttering the now iconic words of Suplex City bitch for the first time, SummerSlam 2014 arguably saw the birth of the concept as a whole. In just about the most one-sided WWE Championship contest you're ever likely to see, Lesnar flung WWE World Heavyweight Champion John Cena from pillar to post for 15 minutes straight. This was an absolute mugging, one which remarkably took place entirely inside of the white ropes at the biggest party of the summer. Lesnar executed a whopping 16 German suplexes during the one-sided affair, but that still didn't stop Cena desperately attempting to squeeze his way to victory with a late STF. Lesnar was having none of it though, clubbing his way free and planting the champ with an F5 for the landslide victory. So not only did Lesnar manage to completely annihilate the most dominant force the company had seen over the preceding decade, he did so without ever stepping out of the ring, not even for a quick natter with Paul Heyman. Impressive. Number 3, Goldberg vs. Brock Lesnar, Survivor Series 2016. Speaking of the hardest Brock in the WWE landscape, here he makes his third and final appearance in our Stuck on the Mat rankings. Again, this is peculiar for a star who seems to enjoy nothing more than F5ing fools through announce desks. Yet there would be no recreational ramming of wrestlers through tables for the Beast Incarnate on the night of Survivor Series 2016. Instead, this event marked one of the first and only times the Streak Breaker was made to look like nothing more than an out-of-his-depth jobber, but don't tell him I said that. Arriving back on the scene and taking part in his first WWE match in over a decade, Goldberg quickly set about exercising the demons of his past, dropping jaws all over the Air Canada Centre in this rapid WrestleMania 20 rematch. In a sub-90-second blitz, the man unleashed 2 spears and a jackhammer, picking up a stunning victory to the delight and shock of all in attendance. Sure, this may have opened the door for many more Goldberg hit and runs later down the line, some more successful than others, let's say. But this initial comeback and solely ring-bound performance was the icon done right. Number 2, Kevin Owens vs. John Cena, Elimination Chamber 2015. In all honesty, the next 2 matches sit head and shoulders above the majority of the entries on this list in terms of actual in-ring quality. That's not a massive knock on the rest of the field. It's just that these next matches sit as arguably 2 of the finest in modern history, and they both just so happen to go down entirely inside of the squared circle. In a match that took place slap bang in the middle of John Cena's indie-tastic renaissance, Kevin Owens announced himself on the main roster stage in a huge way back at the Elimination Chamber event in 2015. It was here where the pair threw themselves into an insanely entertaining game of one-upmanship. Owens' attempts to a win via attitude adjustment were answered back by a tornado DDT, a package powerbomb was met with a springboard stunner, and so on. However, it was the NXT champion who would pick up the career-changing W, planting the United States champion with a pop-up powerbomb and cementing himself as a talent worthy of filling the void Cena was clearly preparing to leave behind. The fact the independent superstar did so purely through his capabilities strictly within the WWE ropes was merely the icing on the KO cake. And what a cake that is! Number 1. AJ Styles vs John Cena, Royal Rumble 2017. John Cena can't wrestle, right? Ha! Seizing number 1 spot and finding himself on the winning side for the first time in our list, John Cena's last WWE Championship victory against AJ Styles saw neither man leave the ring from bell to bell. As revealed by the Phenomenal One himself during a recent episode of WWE's The Bump, two of the biggest stars of their generation kept all of their crowd-popping action in between the ropes, noting that this feat is not really heard of these days, before admitting how proud he was of the contest. And he's right to be. In the finale of their epic trilogy of bouts, the rivals took things up a few more levels and pulled out weapons deep from within the arsenals they'd built up over the last few decades. After hitting an electric chair facebuster, sunset flip powerbomb, and unique cutter on the reigning WWE champion, Cena was finally able to seal the deal with a pair of savage attitude adjustments after nearly 25 minutes of can't-miss awesomeness. Seriously, go back and watch this thing, it's magnificent. There's a case to be made for this being the last great match of Cena's career, and also one of the very best Styles has taken part in during his illustrious one too. It just goes to show sometimes all you need is 2 stars at the top of their game, a ring, and enough near falls to sink the Titanic. And that's our list. Know of any other wrestling matches that never left the ring? Let us know all about them in the comments section below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon.